You're live with BBC News. It is the single greatest witch hunt of all time. Donald Trump on his way into a New York courtroom today for the opening of a civil fraud case in which he could lose $250 million. He and his two sons are accused of inflating the value of his assets by billions of dollars to secure better loan and insurance terms, while deflating the value of those same assets to avoid tax. It's a tale that goes to the very heart of who Donald Trump is and what he cares about the most. Why else did he fly back from Iowa last night to appear in court in person? Outside the courtroom, he lambasted the rogue judge who holds his fate in his hands and the New York Attorney General, who he said is a racist and a horror show.
So very simply put, it's a witch hunt, it's a disgrace. We have a corrupt Attorney General in this state. You see how she does? This trial was railroaded and fast-tracked. This trial could have been brought years ago, but they waited till I was right in the middle of my campaign. The same with other trials and indictments. It's all run by DOJ, which is corrupt in Washington. Everything goes through them. They're all corrupt people. Frankly, our country is corrupt. And that's one of the reasons I'm running. We're going to straighten it out.
And it went on like that for several minutes. Let's speak to Richard Painter, who was the chief White House ethics lawyer for President George W. Bush and is now a law professor at the University of Minnesota. Richard, lovely to see you again. It seemed to me this afternoon that on his way into the civil court case, Donald Trump was trying to relitigate what's already been decided. But that's not what this trial is about, is it?
This trial is about fraud, bank fraud and insurance fraud. Hundreds of millions of dollars worth of fraud. And others have done this as well, but have also been prosecuted for it, where you inflate the value of your assets for obtaining bank loans and insurance. And indeed, the financial collapse of 2008 was caused by those who would seek to inflate the value of real estate for the purpose of obtaining loans and then securitizing those loans. This is a very serious type of fraud, and the New York Attorney General is pursuing it. No, the New York Attorney General does not report to the United States Department of Justice. He doesn't know what he's talking about. This is the Attorney General of the state of New York, who could have pursued this as a criminal case. The Manhattan District Attorney was investigating it as a criminal case and almost brought charges, and they decided to pursue civil fraud charges where they need to prove proof of fraud by clear and convincing evidence, not the very, very high standard of beyond a reasonable doubt needed for criminal trial. But the judge has ruled that there was fraud. And of course, he's going to say the judge is corrupt. That's what Donald Trump says every time a judge rules against him. And he's now saying similar things about the judge in the District of Columbia who's presiding over his criminal trial, who is an African-American woman. I mean, this goes on and on with Donald Trump. He accuses the prosecutors and the judges of being corrupt and thinks that's going to get him out of trouble.
What the judge has already decided is that he's cancelling Donald Trump's business licenses in New York. How serious is that to the Trump organization?
Well, that means the Trump organization is going to have to sell their businesses to someone who is licensed to do business in New York, sell the Trump Tower and sell the other buildings. Because New York State has the right to tell people who commit fraud that they're not allowed to do business in the state of New York. And this is a decision by the judge that Donald Trump has committed fraud. If Donald Trump appeals that decision to the New York courts and it's overturned, okay, he can do business in New York. But until then, it looks like he's going to have to think about selling his businesses in New York State.
Just quickly, Richard, in terms of the agenda, I think this is down for 3 months, this civil case. How does that work with the other trials, the other 4 cases that he's actually appearing in? And what is his schedule now looking like?
Well, Donald Trump's schedule in court is quite crowded. His other 4 cases are criminal cases. He has another criminal case in New York brought by the Manhattan District Attorney for falsification of business records to conceal the Stormy Daniels payoffs. But that's probably his least serious criminal case. He has a federal case in Florida that's going to be coming up in the spring for his theft of classified documents and obstruction of justice, obstruction of the investigation in connection with the classified documents found at Mar-a-Lago. Another federal case in the District of Columbia for a violation of several federal conspiracy statutes in connection with his attempt to overturn the 2020 election and the events of January 6th, and yet another case down in Fulton County, Georgia, for violation of Georgia's racketeering statute in connection with the attempt to overturn the election results in Georgia. When he's calling the Secretary of State of Georgia and telling him to just come up with 11,000 votes. So these are 4 criminal indictments, 91 counts in 4 separate jurisdictions. All these trials expected to happen in 2024, in the first half of 2024. So Donald Trump's going to have a very, very busy time in court.
Indeed so. A packed diary. Richard Painter, nice to see you. Thanks very much.